Yay! Here's me making up for a missed opportunity. This is an LTD Truckster that I've already reviewed, and I used to own the ESP version, the grey and the black. I really wanted to compare the finishes of the LTD and the ESP grey Trucksters. Unfortunately, I sold both guitars, but now I have this opportunity thanks to a couple of friends of mine. One of them owns the LTD, the other owns this beautiful ESP that I just bought for him. And it is going to be more of a finish comparison because the LTD has the original EMG pickup set, this has the James Hetfield set. We don't need a website for this one because we have the Holy Bible, James Hetfield's Messengers, the book for his guitars. And in here we have the Trucksters, the 2004 Truckster #1, the grey one, eventually the 2005 model for all of us, and the 2008 black one. Here's James doing some drumming with the Riff Life black Truckster, and here's the description for the Truckster grey. I'm gonna take a detailed photo of this one and show it to you a bit later, but the main idea is that he started with the grey guitar. He took a regular black ESP Eclipse and painted over it a couple of times. You can see it's the regular Eclipse because of the waving flag inlays. He started with black, then painted it white, red and grey. Then he sanded down a couple of wear spots to achieve this effect and banged it up to make it his own. Also in here, James claims that he likes to stay up in his hotel room, chipping away at the guitars, writing stuff on them with nails, knives or whatever, making them his own. And now that we have the Holy Bible, this book with the photos of James' personal guitar, I can compare them with the ESP that I have here at hand, and I gotta say that ESP did a wonderful job recreating James's personal guitar. And also it's been 20 years since 2005 and this guitar has started to age and look exactly like James' personal axe. See how close the Japanese factory got to the original? Maybe James did a little bit more sanding down to the wood over here, but that's okay. Check out the pick attack marks, they're pretty accurate too. Let's see if they got the knobs distressing right. Here's the photo. I'd say pretty close as well. This K looking mark is over here, you see? Wonderful job. And you gotta keep in mind that these distressing marks and the whole process varies from guitar to guitar. They cannot make them exactly the same. Some have different pattern here, some have different pattern where the pick attack is, but generally they got it looking almost exactly right. And again, I'm reminding you, this is not an aging process. This is supposed to be a truck that's painted over a couple of times and sanded down, some chips from usage. Do not confuse this guitar with vintage aged. It is a distressed truck that has been painted over a couple of times. I'll show you the catalogs that I've reviewed in my previous video with the LTD, but the black ESP Truckster came a lot later than the grey, and James has been playing this one a lot lately, and he's been knifing away at the finish, as you can see. And as you can see, it also has the EMG headset. It's a cool guitar, and it's painted in reverse order, starting with the gray and finishing on the black. Some cool photos of James using the guitars on the St. Anger tour. And here's the specs of the Truckster #1. We have mahogany body, mahogany neck, EMG 8160, the original set, 3-way switch, etc, etc. As promised, here's that close-up from James Hetfield's book Messengers, explaining what the Truckster is and how exactly came to be. And here are the catalogs. Here's the official ESP catalog. The Truckster is the 5th Hetfield signature since he joined ESP back in 1991. It was used throughout the St. Anger tour. Here's the live footage from that period. It's a 2006 concert in Berlin. One of the few good things, positive things that came out of the COVID period. Metallica gave us this wonderful live performances never before seen. And in this one, we can see James performing whenever I'm at Rome on the Great Truckster, and there's some more distressing going on, especially where the pick attacks occur. He has glossed it all the way down to the black finish, as you can see. Man, I love this Metallica period. I know a lot of people prefer the pre-90s thrash metal Metallica, but I prefer the Load Reload and St. Anger era. Just looks like James in his prime to me. This is the 2006 ESP catalog with some more photos of James in the St. Anger tour, and this is the last time the LTD was shown, because as we can see in the 2007 catalog, the LTD is nowhere to be seen. And here's another beautiful ESP Truckster Grey that belongs to a friend of mine, Martin. Hi Martin, thanks for the photos. Wait a minute, there's something off here. The forearm wear pattern looks a bit different. The distressing around the knobs, the pick attacks, the headstock, the truss rod cover. Is this? Nah, fooled you, that's not the ESP, that's the LTD from 2008, meaning that there wasn't 2008 LTD and they continued making it after 2005. The logo on this guitar has been replaced with a 3D printed one by Kruppy Guitars, who made a wonderful job. The point is, even though the LTD is not featured in the official catalogs, there are still guitars made after 2005 all the way to at least 2008 as far as I know. The LTD distressing varies from guitar to guitar a lot. Now let's continue. The 2008 catalog has the same picture as the 2007, and again only the ESP, no LTD inside. Then for 2009 we have again only the ESP grey version and the introduction of the black iron cross. In another catalog for 2009, it's weird to see the black iron cross and the Truckster in the back. Probably no footage of the black iron cross being used live. The 2010 catalog brings the introduction of the black Truckster. A lot of people, including myself, thought that both Trucksters were introduced at the same time, but no, the black one came almost 5 years later than the grey. In the 2010 catalog we have the ESP and LTD versions of the black Truckster. Here's another catalog from 2010 and it only features the ESP versions of both the black and grey Truckster. Late 2010, early 2011 marks the introduction of the ESP Snakebite, and in this catalog we can see both black Trucksters. 2012 we have the Snakebites again, the black ESP Truckster and the return of the great ESP Truckster. And that's pretty much the last of it. Even though I did a video on the LTD Truckster explaining what it is, I can see that a couple of years later this guitar remains mainly misunderstood. But this truck is slowly gaining traction and prices are beginning to pick up. For example, I used to own the black and grey ESP Trucksters and sold them 5 years ago for the same amount of money that I used to buy this grey Truckster alone. People have been sleeping on these for a while now. I think it's mainly because they don't understand the idea behind the guitar. Again, I'm gonna explain it briefly. It's not cartoonishly aged ESP Eclipse. It's supposed to match the aesthetics of a truck that has been painted over 3 times and worn down to show the layers of paint. James gave the same explanation in the book Messengers. I think that's extremely cool and unique. Another fact that makes it unique is that at the time ESP were not specializing in aging guitars. Maybe only slight distressing, but something ambitious like this Truckster, not even close. The fact that this guitar is not a limited run of 100 blows my mind. Personally, I think the Grey Truckster should have been as valuable as the distressed Black Iron Cross, for example, yet somehow it isn't. It's a mass-produced, frequently available and affordable guitar, or at least it has been for the past 20 years. Why is it like that? I think it's because of the primer grey color. It appeals mainly to car guys. That's why a lot of people seem to prefer the black Truckster. Satin black is a safer bet when it comes to guitars. I said this before and I'm gonna say it again. I think primer grey is the cooler guitar when it comes to Trucksters. It was the initial idea, Truckster No1. It's unique and perfectly matches James's creativity. I also believe that if it was a limited run guitar, it would have been more successful and more expensive, of course. But ESP made way too many of these. I wonder how was this possible when the process of making them has to be time consuming. You have to start with a regular black paint, then apply 3 more layers of paint. When you are done, you have to painstakingly recreate the aging of James's personal guitar. And they absolutely bang on matched it, judging by the photos of James' personal guitar. If you look at it this way, the Grey Truckster was and still is an absolute banger. Another factor that limits the fan base of this guitar could be the period that it came out in. In the early 2000s, Metallica already has started to lose a lot of hardcore thrash fans by cutting their hair short, making the albums Load and Reload and subsequently the Saint Anger album. So the Trucksters are associated with this period, which not every Metallica fan likes. I do. Last but not least, it's an Eclipse or LP shape. When you think of James, you imagine flying Vs and Explorers. I personally love his Eclipses, but people like me are not a majority. People seem to prefer the weird pointy shapes. So, eventually the unique finish, the release period and the shape kinda limited the desirability of this guitar. I'm surprised that it took 4 or 5 years to replace the Grey Truckster with the black one, which is a safer bet. Honestly, I would not be surprised if ESP lost money producing this guitar, or at least not making too much, because it seems like a lot of work and minimum return, and yet they made them. Man, I'm so grateful that I finally get to compare these two guitars. So I'm gonna start with the ESP, then do a bit of a comparison of the finishes, then show you the LTD and do a tone demo. And after that, I'm gonna tell you my final thoughts. Let's start. I'm gonna polish the frets, oil the fingerboard, polish these pickups as well, do the ESP, and then I'm gonna do the LTD as well. So we have a mahogany neck, I'm not sure how many pieces. We have rosewood fingerboard, 22 extra jumbo frets, mahogany body. Originally came with a set of EMG 8160s, but these are swapped to the James Hetfield set, Tone Pro, bridge and a tailpiece. I'm gonna explain the controls a bit later in the video. Now, on paper, Spurzo tuners by the way, these two guitars have the same specs. Obviously the big difference, this one is made in Japan, this one is made in Korea using different materials, and the finish of this is more accurate. Pickups out of the way already reveal a different situation in the ESP, much different than LTD. In fact, I'm gonna show the previous video with the LTD. A couple of surprises under the pickups, and have you ever seen a neck pickup cavity routed so deep? Look at the normal depth of the cavity of the bridge pickup, now check it out on the neck. And I'm curious, is this supposed to be a long neck tenon? It's the same width as the neck. I see some glue around it, so yeah, this probably is a long neck tenon. Something else interesting, even that early in 2005 we still got the quick connect system for the pickups. Another cool thing, this one is the functional 3-way switch, this one is a dummy, but it's routed. If you want, you can get the cables all the way through the cavities, through this hole here and down to the electronics and connect it. Here's that neck pickup cavity from another angle. It's pretty cool to see something like that. It's the first time I'm seeing a guitar being routed so deep. Back to the ESP, as you can see, this looks more like an ESP, like the Snakebite, the Iron Cross that I've reviewed, or even an Edwards. You have black shielding paint, it's not routed that deep, you don't have that weird neck tenon, just the isolation paint, the ground wire, and the quick connect for the pickups. Also check out the routing on the ESP, much more precise and wider. On the LTD it was just a drilled hole that went all the way to the electronics cavity to the three-way switch on the top that you can connect it. This, I think it might be a mahogany body with a mahogany top and pre-routed. The upper three-way switch is not connected, the lower one is used to switch the pickups. Speaking of pickups and pickup rings, these are the original 8160 that the ESP should have, and the pickup rings as well, but they're swapped on the ESP here with the James Hetfield set and a chrome looking rings. Here they are, the EMG James Hetfield set. Honestly, I like the look of those pickup rings, they go well with the pickups and the guitar. And this is the James Hetfield set. As I can see here from the date, it's one of the early ones from 2012. So probably the owner bought this guitar in 2005, and as soon as the headset came out, he bought one and replaced the original pickups. And I did the same with my Trucksters. I think I've put the headset in the black one and the gray one was stock, just to have some versatility. I'm impressed to see the quick connect plug for the pickups all the way back to 2005. I imagine that the back of the electronics doesn't have the quick connect pods though, but we'll see when I review the electronics. This switch is not connected, James prefers it down here. We have a bridge volume, and in order to put the three-way switch down here, he got rid of the neck volume, it's right here, and a master tone, so this one does the switching, and we have a 3-knob configuration. Some differences in the hardware: the LTD features satin finish for the hardware. As you can see, these are the original ones, and look at the ones on the ESP, they're chrome. There is a slight possibility they're swapped, but I think they're stock because I've seen differences in the hardware, in the KH2, the snake bites, etc, etc. Again, the hardware finish and color may vary from year to year. In my KH2 Kirk Hammett videos, I've shown that some of the guitars come with black hardware, others come with black chrome. Same with James's snake bites. I'm assuming that these are the original knobs and hardware because whoever swapped them, if he did, this is the same Tone Pro configuration with the lock Tone Pro bridge and the tailpiece. I don't imagine someone will go all the way. Oh, I have to intonate this, by the way. So, okay, it's a locking bridge that locks to the struts. The struts go in the body with metal inserts. And remember guys, loosen these screws if you're gonna adjust the height of the bridge, or else you'll damage your struts with the screwdriver, and this will start to rust eventually because the finish is off. Also, once you finish setting up the guitar or adjusting the height, remember to lock these, because if you don't, this will happen. The previous owner, this is a Tone Pro tailpiece, lost one of the locking bolts here. This one is here, this one was probably not tightened and eventually fell out of the bridge. So the tailpiece weighs 76 grams, this is pretty substantial and close to the one on the LTD. So again, I think this is the original hardware, and the LTD had around 56 grams for the Tone Pro bridge, same here, 55-56. So yeah, I'd say this is the original hardware. Another advice: when you're putting the pickups back in, remember, don't over tighten the screws because this finish is prone to cracking from pressure. Interesting situation with the screws: we have 2 short for the front pickup, 2 long, and then for the rear we have 4 long. You know who else cracks under pressure? Me, because it took me a month to do this video. Measuring the headset, the bridge pickup measures at 723 k ohms. Switching over to the neck, 1714, and the middle position is 860. Now I wanted to confirm that this is the neck pickup volume, but I forgot that EMG pickups don't react the same way as passive pickups when you measure them, so it doesn't register anything when I do this, when I roll down on the volume. Now on to the interesting part, comparing both guitars. I haven't taken care of the LTD yet at this point of the video, but bear with me, I'm gonna clean it later. First of all, check out how both guitars aged. This is 20 years old, the LTD, the ESP is also 20 years old. And check out the poly finish on the LTD has turned green, the ESP has remained light gray. And for the big question I wanted to answer for both guitars, and I got wrong in my first video, and if these were my guitars I already would have taken a screwdriver to them, but are they both painted 4 times over? Lucky for both my friends, I'm not a bad person and I'm not gonna damage their guitars, but I have a way of confirming that both of these are actually painted 4 times. The first layer being the black, then we got the white, then the red and the primer gray. Also, I can 100% confirm that both guitars have binding. Remember, they started as a regular Eclipse and had been painted over. The LTD had been sanded down a bit more and showing the mahogany top. So here's how I do this without damaging the guitars themselves. The pick attacks that had been done on this guitar, here and here, if you run your finger to them, you can feel the depth of the paint. Definitely not just a graphic, this has depth to it. I hope you can see it on the detailed beauty shots that I did. It's the same here with the ESP. If you run your nail through it, it sticks. Same with the pick attack down here, same with the distressing around the knobs. The black paint is recessed on both guitars, it's much more subtle on the LTD. You can definitely feel it when you run your finger through it. That's what she said. As much as I want to give credit to the LTD for the distressing, it's much better done on the ESP. Even though it's SS serial number meaning standard series, I think this is done by the custom shop guys and they did an excellent job. The LTD, of course, being mass produced in Korea, you cannot give so much attention to this distressing, but they did a wonderful job recreating it. I think they got carried away here. James doesn't use this switch, so why distress it here? Here and here it's a regular pick attack. See how the primer gray is slightly different around the distressing here. You can also see it at places here. I think LTD had to work by photos. ESP had James's actual guitar to recreate. We have some more distressing here, some more here, the forearm distressing. Remember, James sanded this down to give it this look. And the ESP is much more accurate, especially here around the knobs. And here on the edge of the LTD, we don't have the chips that the ESP has. Check this out, these are pretty cool. I think the LTDs don't get banged on like the ESPs, they just get sanded down to achieve this look. The ESPs have a little bit more attention to detail. Here's a closer look at that binding that has been painted over on both guitars. Let's talk about the finish in further detail. You have to be extra careful when wiping these guitars down. I mean, this is gloss, the red is gloss, but this is satin. And when you rub down satin too hard, it becomes glossy. You can see some spots that already glossed over from contact with the skin. And again, I want to stress out, this is not an aged guitar. This is supposed to be a truck painted over a couple of times, sanded down to represent distressing. Oh, that's why it's called a Truckster, huh? Who would have known? This has a mahogany neck, binding for the side of the rosewood fingerboard, black side dot inlays, massive 22 extra jumbo frets, and the inlays are mother of pearl for the ESP. It also features the ESP logo on the 12th fret. Before I put the strings back on, let me give you the differences with the LTD. The inlays on the LTD are plastic pearloid, not mother of pearl, but they're selected so well that you can confuse them with mother of pearl. The fingerboard looks lighter in color because I haven't applied the oil yet, and these are mother of pearl, but they're started to yellow. That's why they're not as shiny or have the same texture as the LTD. You can definitely tell in certain light situations though. The 12th fret inlay features the LTD letters raised, same for the ESP, but interestingly on the ESP they are not as relief or raised as on the LTD, as you can clearly see here. Another proof that the finish on the LTD is slightly different, the binding has yellowed severely more. Now this can be due to use, but I think not in this case. The fret edges are slightly differently finished as well. Both guitars have the waving flag headstock because they're based on the Eclipse, but you see the finish is different, same as on the bodies. We have the James Hetfield signature, the raised LTD leathers like a car emblem. Both have the wonderful Spurzel locking tuners in satin. There is, however, a difference in the truss rods and the cavities for them. The ESP has the traditional nut like on the Gibsons, a two-way. The LTD is adjusted by an Allen wrench. That's why the covers are different as well. Now both guitars have distressed headstock, and they both feature binding for the headstock, as you can see on the distressed spots. The distressing level differs on both, as you can see. Also the nuts, this is the cheaper new bone like nut, and this is supposed to be bone, I think. Now check out the truss rod cover for the ESP. I love the fact that it's slanted like that. Once you put it on the guitar, it levels up with the nut. And here's the ESP truss rod cavity cover, bullet shaped, the Truckster leathers are recessed, and here's the cavity itself. It's wider, and as I mentioned, it has the nut like the Gibson guitars. But unlike on the Gibsons, it's two-way adjustable. Now let's measure the neck of the ESP. The nut is 42.4mm wide or 1.66 inch. The 5th fret is at 46.9mm or 1.84 inch. The 12th fret is at 52.4mm or 2.06 inches. Thickness at the 1st fret 20.9mm or 0.82 inch, even though it has a volute. Thickness at the 5th fret 21.7mm or 0.85. Thickness at the 12th fret 23mm or 0.90. This is similar to the Gibson Les Paul custom measurements, that's why it feels so comfortable to me. The LTD is slightly thinner, as you will see. ESPs have metric measurements unlike the Gibsons, so the pickup spacing is not 60 but 58.4mm. The thickness of the body of the ESP is 43.1mm or 1.69 inch, and here if you look closer you can notice the binding under the primer gray paint. Pretty cool, huh? The radius is 12 inches like on Gibson Les Pauls. Remember, James is a Les Paul and Explorer user, and here's some distressing on the edges of the top of the guitar and various other areas. It's pretty cool to see these up close, and actually pretty cool to be able to compare them to the LTD. Here are the chip marks on the bottom side near the strap button down here. And here's what the neck profile looks like. It is as thick as a Les Paul Custom, but slightly more U-shaped and different than the LTD. Now here's what the back of the guitar looks like. More distressing here on the edges, which is pretty cool. You can see it has been sanded down all the way to the mahogany back. Here's the cover for the electronics. In later models, the custom shop Kiso models have the tray for the battery. Here's the three-way switch cover, and here's some more distressing for the neck joint. Some more severe chips here. You can see all the way to the mahogany back, and it's light color mahogany. Pretty cool. I like this. You can definitely feel the thickness of the paint here when it has been chipped all the way to the mahogany. Damage incorporated, huh? The one thing that always stood out to me as the weirdest about the distressing are the belt buckle rashes. It's almost like slashes from a knife, and I guess that's what it is, James slashing away in his hotel room. And here's the LTD with a separate battery box, and look how severe the scratches on the back of this are, all the way down to the mahogany. Whoever did the distressing on the LTD got a little carried away because the ESP doesn't feature that all the way to the wood, but this gives us another chance to feel how thick the paint is. Since we're back here, let's compare distressings as well. We have this one on the lower horn, much more severe on the ESP. We have a chip on the lower horn, not chipped here. Severely distressed on the belt buckle rashes, slightly more conservative here, and we have some wear near the neck joint. We don't have it here. The chips on the back, you can feel that the paint has been really chipped. Here on the LTD it's sanded, it's smoothed out. If you wanna see both guitars in 4K with more detail. Check out the beauty videos that feature both guitars side by side. But yeah, these had been distressed slightly, well, not slightly, a lot different actually, but each has its own charm. Well, I prefer the ESP, to be honest, or I can have both. It's pretty cool that the white paint has started to yellow as well on the LTD, much rapid aging. The LTD's neck finish has smoothed over, turned to gloss. My friend has played this guitar a lot. The ESP is still satin. Maybe it hasn't been played that much, which I doubt. It's just a different finish, and the distressing on it is different than on the LTD as well. Here they went a bit too far, going all the way to the mahogany as well, but allowing us to see the color of the mahogany for the neck. The volutes are different on both guitars as well. This is more square-like, as you can see, much rounder on the ESP. The distressing itself on the volute differs as well. We have the ESP logo on the LTD, no logo for the ESP. Both feature the Spurzel locking tuners, as I mentioned. The serial number on the Korean guitar is here, W05. We have SS05 for the Japanese guitar. It's pretty cool to have these two guitars, the first runs, side by side. Here's the electronics compartment of the ESP, shooting paint here as well for the three-way switch. And as I guessed, it doesn't have the quick connect pots for the EMG pickups. This is 2005, it's too early for that, so it has the solder-on electronics on the back. And I have to tighten this three-way switch actually. A ground wire, we have the leads for the 9-volt battery, which is wrapped in felt like that. Here's the cover for the electronics, which is shielded from the back side, and the cover for the three-way switch, which has shielding as well. Some more felt to isolate the 9-volt battery from the pots. Here's the back of the LTD from my previous video. I don't want to unscrew all of these cavities and damage the wood again. Here's the three-way switch routed all the way down to the electronics so you can connect it. The 9-volt battery compartment with the clip. Pretty cool to have that separate from the electronics compartment. Again, this doesn't feature the quick connect pots. Still has a solder-on electronics, but I gotta say the cavity of the LTD is done pretty well and painted with a shielding paint. The ESP is set in E-flat standard with 1148 slinkies. The LTD is set in D standard with heavy bottoms, but is gonna be raised to E-flat standard. I've applied some tuned lubricant for the nut and the bridge on both guitars. The case is a bit of a weird situation. Initially I thought, oh, it's just another ESP case that I've seen God knows how many of them, but you'll see in a second there's a difference. It has the same light lining, 3 latches, and the leather handle. ESP logo on the bottom side, all standard stuff, but once you open it up, oh, this is a first. It's the first time I'm seeing padding like this on an ESP case, almost to the point that I thought this is not the original case. I've asked the owner, has he replaced it, but no, this first run of guitars came with padding like this. It is a perfect fit for an Eclipse. I don't think it's made especially for the Trucksters, just for Eclipse guitars, and if you take the guitar out, you can see that it has some more padding down there and fits perfectly. Here's a compartment for accessories with some pics from my friend, and this doesn't have the certificate of authenticity, but I have a picture of it. The owner gave me a picture, he lost it. This is what the underside and the hinges look like, and that's the side profile with some writings on it. It's so cool to have these two side by side finally. I regretted selling my Grey Truckster, not because I liked it that much, but I've always wanted to compare it to the LTD, and now I have the chance. You can see them in daylight, and now I'm gonna show you the LTD in further detail just for the sake of completion of this video. If you thought that the ESP Truckster situation is weird, the LTD is even stranger. For as long as I have known the LTD version, and I saw a couple of black and grey ones throughout the years, I always thought that the paint layers on them were fake graphics. I thought the LTD is not painted 4 times over like the ESP. Turns out I made a mistake. In my LTD Truckster review I said that it's not finished 4 times over, and I do apologize about that. It absolutely is. Now that I have them both side by side again and looking at them with a bit more experience in reviewing guitars, I can clearly see that LTD has 4 layers of finish. Of course, it doesn't feature the same amount of detail. It is made in Korea for way less money and by different people. But I gotta say, they came pretty damn close, and the LTD Truckster is cool in its own way. As you can see, the top primer gray layer has aged differently than the one on the ESP. The Japanese guitar has remained light gray, almost like the day it rolled out of the production line. The LTD, on the other hand, has turned greenish gray, which looks pretty cool to a fan of the silver burst finish like me. The Gibson silver burst also turns gray as a result of the nitro finish turning yellow over the silver finish. Another thing that makes the LTD cool is the made in Korea factor. In the early 2000s, ESP were sparing no expense when it came to signature guitars made in Korea. Another example of top quality, almost ESP-like, is the LTD Grinch James Hetfield Signatures Baritone that I've already reviewed. You can go and watch that video as well. Another cool James guitar inspired by his love of American custom-made cars, the Grinch. I got to admit that the LTD is also often overlooked and still easy to obtain at a reasonable price, especially considering the fact that the price of the ESP version has doubled over the last 5 years. The LTD can still be found around the 1000 euro ballpark, which is crazy low for a Korean-made signature guitar for James Hetfield. 2 friends of mine had bought the LTD in the last couple of months and are happy with it. One of them I've already shown you, the Martin guitar that has the ESP logo. Before you go and buy this guitar though, I gotta warn you about a couple of things. I'm not gonna wait to the finish of the video. First of all, you have to like satin finished guitars. Then you have to like the Eclipse shape. You also have to enjoy active pickups. Of course you can convert it, but it loses kind of the charm. And last but not least, it has James Hetfield written all over it. If you just want a regular Eclipse, go for something else. This guitar, regardless if it's the ESP or LTD version, is for the hardcore Metallica fans. And it's no surprise that both my friends who own these guitars are huge Metallica fans. Yeah, all of us have a crush on James Hetfield. I did them in reverse order because you've already seen the LTD video. I've oiled the fingerboard, polished the fret slightly, and now I'm gonna measure the neck to compare it to the ESP. The neck is 42mm wide, slightly thinner than on the ESP. The 5th fret is at 47.9 or 1.88 inch. The 12th fret is at 52.8mm or 2.07 inches. Thickness at the 1st fret 20.7mm, almost the same like on the ESP. Thickness at the 5th fret is 20.6, thinner on the LTD. 21.8, definitely thinner on the LTD. Doesn't feel like a Les Paul Custom Gibson. Now the pickup spacing is slightly different, narrower, and the thickness is slightly thinner on the LTD. The neck profile differs as well, definitely flatter on the LTD, especially on the 12th fret. It's a thin neck from the 5th to the 12th fret, definitely feels way different than the ESP. It's lighter as well, as you shall see in a minute. I want to give you another angle on that, distressing some minor scratches here and there. It's a pretty cool job given the fact that this is a mass-produced guitar. Again, the amount of attention to detail that goes into this is staggering for me, especially for the price point and being made in Korea. Here's the aging on the headstock and the distressing. You can see all the way through the binding because remember the original guitar was a black Eclipse and this is based on it, just painted over. I don't think we're gonna see the amount of detail on a newer LTD like this one. The ESP is pretty heavy for an Eclipse, it's all mahogany after all, 8.28 pounds. But check this out, regardless having the same footprint, the LTD is a pound lighter than the ESP. Different wood density, different materials result in different weight, but you can definitely feel that this one is lighter. Now let's hear them. As you probably noticed, I did not dive too deep into the ESP versus LTD debate for this video. I have many videos comparing them, the snake bites, the iron crosses, and now the Trucksters. The result is always the same. The ESP feels, plays, and sounds better. The ESP doesn't win by as much as you might think, but it's worth it. It is not a winner versus a loser situation though. Every Hetfield signature LTD I have owned or reviewed so far was amazingly good and a great value for the money. The Grinch was almost ESP-like feeling. The Iron Cross is still, in my opinion, the best LTD Eclipse. The snake bites are also great. Same goes for the Trucksters, especially this first run of great Trucksters. Honestly, I'm shocked that the LTD was produced all the way to 2008 and probably beyond. I'm shocked that it has all 4 layers of finish and the distressing as well. All that hard work on a mass-produced Korean guitar is probably costly and time-consuming. Honestly, I don't think LTD were making a lot of money on these guitars and probably struggling to meet deadlines for deliveries. I'm also shocked that the Japanese factories managed to produce so many of the ESP guitars as well. Just seems like hard work, you know. Remember, back in 2010, the Trucksters were not expensive. I remember buying both the grey and the black ESP SS serial number guitars for 3000 euro total, which is crazy. This one I bought for a friend for about 3400 euro a month ago. He should have bought my 2 guitars when I was selling both of them. He was still young there, wild at heart, the Metallica trash years pumping through his blood. Now both of us are laid back, have some kids, and we're ready to play the Load and Reload albums with the Trucksters. Anyway, let's go back to being an informative channel. Which one should you buy? Almost the same advice I would give you in any ESP versus LTD debate. If you have the money for it, always go ESP. Although in this case the LTD also has redeeming qualities, made in Korea and painted 4 times over. Whichever one you buy, go do it now before these get even more expensive. I do have one complaint about these guitars, and this applies to every ESP signature release. I'm gonna bitch about it until ESP hears me and does something about it. The packaging doesn't feel special at all. ESP needs to put more effort in making us feel special for the amount of money that we're paying. Especially nowadays, these guitars had been going crazy expensive. I mean, if you wanna buy an Iron Cross or a Snake Bite or a Vulture, you have to pump out around 6,000 euro in Europe, and this is a crazy amount of money. These are signature guitars for one of the metal gods, James Hetfield himself. ESP should go all in when it comes to the packaging. I always give this example. One of my favorite signature guitars, packaging and guitar itself, is the Jason Hook signature M4 Sherman Explorer. That has 5-finger dead punch and Jason Hook all over it. It should be the same with the Truckster. I mean, go crazy, go with the Truckster theme. Make the case look like a car trunk or something. Print the certificates of authenticity on a license plate, a metal license plate like on a car. ESP, please hear me out. Start personalizing the packaging of these beautiful guitars. We're paying you a lot of money. We're willing to pay you some more if you can do them properly. Include some cool stuff. Make the cases look cool. Like, I think they did this with the Snakebite. I haven't reviewed it yet. The Snakebite, the camo. The case is camo as well. Hopefully a friend of mine buys it soon and I'm gonna review that as well. But you catch my drift, right? We need better packaging for these cool guitars. And since I have enough time left, I'm gonna tell you why I chose to sell both my Trucksters, the black and the gray. Initially, I was thinking about keeping the gray one because obviously I thought it's the cooler guitar, as I already explained. But then I wanted to finance another buy. I do a lot of reviews. I cannot afford to keep all of the guitars, not only because of the money, but because of the space they take up. But I had a more specific reason for selling them. I've said this in many videos. First of all, I don't like satin guitars. That's why I told you you gotta love satin guitars to keep these. Then I'm not a fan of rosewood fingerboards, and honestly I'm surprised that James went with rosewood for these guitars, because I know he's been using ebony for most of his signatures and the guitars that he likes. Going with brown fingerboard on a gray guitar, honestly, visually it's not appealing to me. Oh shit, I'm out of time, but also I do have a video of the guitars that I sold, my personal guitars, so you have to check this one out as well. I'm gonna link it above. I hope you like this video. Bye!